Welcome to Your City Connections, where you get to meet entertaining and informative guests. Guests such as an artist with a brush or with a camera, and guest with a violin. City Connections, providing insightful interviews with favorite son Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb. To city commissioners, the mayor. Interviews with a rodeo queen, to beauty queen, and even a NBA player. Now, join Steve Keim as he discusses another engaging topic on City Connections.
Hello again and welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Keim and I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Public Relations and Marketing for the City of Enid and also the Enid Television Network. And you know, here in the last few weeks we've had some stellar guests, and that it just keeps on, the gift that just keeps on giving. We had the privilege of visiting with John Groenendijk the other day. Well, we have another Enid connection. Now this guy, you just wondered, was he going to amount to anything? You know, that's what some of his former teachers said and some of his coaches. And he did amount to something. And it's our real thing, and he's got a great sense of humor, thank goodness. Our special guest today is the Lieutenant Governor from the great state of Oklahoma, Todd Lamb.
Hey, Steve.
Todd, thank you for allowing me to say that. You did turn out pretty good, huh?
Well,
Mom and Dad are pleased.
Mom and Dad worked overtime on me, as did all my teachers from McKinley, Waller, Enid High, Emmanuel Christian for 2 years. So I had a lot of help getting this far.
Yeah. You had to surround yourself with the right kind of people.
That's right.
Well, thank you for stopping by the ETN studio today. We know for a fact that you are one busy guy, and you've got all kinds of meetings, and you're on your way to other meetings today. So thanks for giving us a few minutes today. Well, right off the bat, are you still traveling to the 77 counties? And can you give us a snapshot overall? How is Oklahoma doing?
I'm still traveling to all of Oklahoma 77 counties. In the last, Steve, probably in the last week and a half, I've been to Durant. I
thought it was Durant.
I've been to Durant, McAllister, Krebs, Tishomingo, Stillwater, Tulsa twice. Other places I probably just I've forgotten about in the last couple of minutes. But we're still on the road in all 77 counties, talking to educators, talking to small businessmen and women, civic leaders, community leaders, asking what the challenges are in their neck of the woods. So I'm still doing that. How's Oklahoma doing? Well, Oklahoma's doing okay. Like what the license plate used to say pretty regularly.
That's still.
But we could be doing better. Yeah. And we have some challenges right now with the commodity prices in agriculture, commodity prices in our hydrocarbons. Those are not excuses, but that's reality when roughly 20% of the revenue in the state of Oklahoma comes from the hydrocarbon commodities. We have some challenges. So I'm optimistic about the future of Oklahoma, where we're headed, but that's not to say we don't have some challenges right now, and we're working on a few things in my office, an exterior aspect of what I'm doing on a future things in Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, Todd, oftentimes the legislature, I guess, captivates the news from February, if you will, all the way up to May. It's always in the news, it's on TV and so forth. But I think typically around the 1st of May or end of May that the session is over with. My question to you is, as Lieutenant Governor, what is your role? Let's say the legislative session is in the books. Everybody leaves, and sometime in May, what is your role after that time?
Well, professionally, that's why you asked, but there's always kind of a personal window there. At the end of May, that's when the kids are also out of school.
Okay.
The first week of June, the last 4 summers, I take my son to a football camp in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. It's a camp that's been going on for 52 years. Now, that's not why you asked, but let me chase this rabbit for a second. Here's my point. When I was an Enid High Plainsman, when I was a wide receiver here, I went to this camp as a camper and a player. I go back now and coach. I take my son. We've taken as many as 14 of his buddies, as few as 5 of his buddies. So I do that the first week of June every summer. But that's not why you asked. Professionally, does it change?
It's good to know. And call 1-800-TODD if you want your son.
We'll give you a ride to football camp if you want to go with us, but that's a lot of fun. Which I think you're asking. Sine die, the last Friday in May for the legislative session. Does anything change for the Lieutenant Governor as Lieutenant Governor? No. I really don't notice any change whatsoever because whether it's session or out of session, I'm still traveling around. I'm talking to those community leaders and educators that I mentioned earlier in the program. I still focus on what I focus on as Lieutenant Governor, the economy of our state, economic development more specifically. So things remain unchanged, whether it's summer, fall, winter, spring, or session, out of session. We're pretty much in fifth gear the whole time and working hard.
And we want to remind our viewers that when I have the opportunity to speak with a variety of senators or state representatives, that they're attending meetings. It's not like when May shows up and they close the door and they go home and they come back next February. They go back to the city and there's committee meetings and they're doing things, and besides meeting with constituents and all. So oftentimes we just hear about what's going on during the session and not anything else. So the last time you came by the Enid Television Network studios, you talked with us a little bit about your goals, if you will, as Lieutenant Governor. Have those goals, and you can update us on those goals, have they changed any? You know, you've been in office for a while and you've been serving Oklahomans for a while. Have those goals changed?
No, the goals haven't changed because it's a general goal of competing with Texas in something besides football. And I talk about this often, but I'll kind of the subtext of the theme or the reason for the theme, parenthetically, there are more Fortune 500 companies in Texas than any other state in the nation. Just marinate for a moment on that. So we're tethered to Texas, separated by a Red River, or really connected to that state. And so the question is, why are there more Fortune 500 companies south of the Red as opposed to north of the Red? Well, public policy and being aggressive in economic development and recruiting those businesses for expansion and or relocation. So that's the goal. I'm still working on that goal, and I think that's a long-term goal in Oklahoma. It's going to require a vision and a very aggressive approach. So we're still working on that. A little more specifically, making sure that the workers' comp reform package that we passed in the session of 2013, that's been tinkered with and altered a little bit by the judicial system, by the courts. I'm not in agreement with that, so I'm making sure that we protect that workers' comp reform that we've passed for our small businesses remains intact, and see if we need to readdress that in the legislature at all. So those are some of the things we continue to work on.
Tell us about your relationship with former Governor Frank Keating. The reason I asked that he was in the studio some time ago, and imagine that he spoke highly of the Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb. But we know that you have a unique relationship with Governor Keating. Can you
I do, and it stems back to my dad. My dad, Norman Lamb, and Governor Keating, former Governor Keating, served together in the legislature. So it starts from that relationship, but I worked on Governor Keating's staff. I was on his campaign staff in '93, '94 when he was elected governor, served in his staff from '95 to March of '98.
Doesn't that seem like a long time ago? When
it does.
I mean,
seems
the
like
90s.
A very long time ago. You think about the '90s and how long that's been, and so it does seem like a long time ago, but I learned quite a bit working for Frank Keating, and he was really an encouragement to me to leave politics or leave policy, being on his staff, and to pursue a career in law enforcement. Keating is a former bureau agent, FBI guy, and he encouraged me to pursue a career in the Secret Service. He said, law enforcement's a great career. You get to serve, you get to make a difference. So I give him a lot of credit for my career I had in law enforcement. I'm thankful that he encouraged me in that capacity. But he and my dad had a great relationship. When he was in town just a month or so ago, he stopped by and visited with Dad. They continue to have a good relationship. So I think a lot of Frank Keating, and he's been a good mentor to me and a good help to me over the years.
Well, he was very gracious with his time to stop by the ETN studios, and we talked about A to Z, so it was really a great experience. Speaking of former governors, earlier this year, it was March or April, we had the opportunity to go down to the state capitol in the Blue Room that you're familiar with, and I had the privilege of interviewing Governor George Nye. Now, I've known George for a long time, but I've never sat down and played 20 questions with him. And the times that I've been around Governor Nye, he was always a walking encyclopedia, knew everything about history, knew everything about Oklahoma.
It's not changed.
It hadn't changed at all. And it was a real treat for me to sit across for, I think we had an hour and a half. He just kept on going, and I just kept on asking. But I remember, Todd, one of the stories he said that when he became lieutenant governor, there was not a physical office for the lieutenant governor. Matter of fact, he told me that he had to share an office with the senator, and maybe they gave him a desk, but there wasn't even a spot for the lieutenant governor. And he said there really wasn't even a role for the lieutenant governor. So here he shows up, ready to go to work, no desk, no office, no job description. how have things changed since the George Nye days to the Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb days? You have a desk.
I have a desk. I guess that's changed. To build on that anecdote that you visited with Governor Nye, he came in our office about 3-4 years ago, and immediately began giving my small staff of 3 a tour of the Lieutenant Governor office and what has changed and what happened when Spencer Bernard was Lieutenant Governor, et cetera, et cetera. So what has changed? Every Lieutenant Governor has made that role somewhat his or her own. To some degree. There has been precedent that has been followed. There are constitutional assignments, statutory assignments for the office of Lieutenant Governor. But one thing I've done that's probably unique, I've been more engaged in public policy, I think, than previous Lieutenant Governors. I've taken that role as small business advocate very seriously. Over 97% of all the businesses in Oklahoma are small businesses. That's the backbone of our economy. That churns the economy in Oklahoma. So whether it's workers' comp, as I mentioned already, unemployment compensation, taxation, regulation, that's one of the reasons I go to all of Oklahoma's 77 counties asking what we need to do as a state to make the environment more competitive so our small businesses can thrive and prosper. I've been very engaged in public policy, and I think that stems from my past as a state senator, serving the state senate for 6 years.
Okay.
So I've enjoyed that, and I've tried to make the role very, very pertinent and relative, and try to be a difference maker.
Speaking of other lieutenant governors, do you all ever get together? Is there an official or unofficial function that previous lieutenant governors get together and just kind of compare notes, or is it when they just stop by the office?
It's usually when they stop by the office,
Okay.
or when I see one out and about. Of course, we have one previous lieutenant governor that's currently governor.
Correct.
Former Governor Askins, Lieutenant Governor Askins, I see her on occasion. Former Lieutenant Governor Bob Kerr, I see him on a rare occasion. Of course, we lost Jack Mildren a few years ago to sickness, which is just tragic. I see his family from time to time. So, and I see Governor Nye, former Lieutenant Governor, former Governor Nye at different functions and events. But we don't get together. That's probably a good idea. Would you host us? How about if we come to your house? How about if you all come here for an interview? Let's do something. Maybe I can reach out in my final couple of years here as Lieutenant Governor and bring the group together.
Okay, we can host it, and I know my wife Cheryl's watching, so we'll host it at our house, but you bring the food.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Since I invited myself over, okay.
Exactly. So, well, our special guest today on City Connections is Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Oklahoma, Todd Lamb, and we've got a few more questions for Todd right after this. Thanks for staying with us. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back to City Connections. Thank you for staying with us today. A special guest, Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb. Oklahoma, as you talked about, you want to be known for more than, say, number one in football and other things. And I was reading the other day that the America's Health Rating Organization ranked Oklahoma about 45th in the health category. And there were several entities that made up that health category. It did note that smoking was down in Oklahoma by 10–11%, but yet overall our health ranking were 45 out of 50. As Lieutenant Governor, what does that say to you, and what can we do to change that?
Well, we can do better, and we must do better. It is good news that we're down about 11% with smoking cessation. I think TSET's done a pretty good job of trying to offer an educational campaign. I think everybody knows that smoking is not good for you, but secondhand smoke and what it does to your family members or your coworkers, et cetera, et cetera. So whether it's smoking, diabetes, obesity, better education and a better awareness campaign would probably help the citizens of Oklahoma immensely. Now that's problematic because that can be expensive, but a real awareness. And we don't want to be known as a state, or when the national rankings come out, we shouldn't be in a position to keep our fingers crossed, hoping for one of those southern states that gets a worse rankings. At least we're not 50th. We're 48th. We're 49th. At least we're not 50th. Thank goodness for blank state X, Y, or Z. So hopefully good news on the horizon with further cessation in smoking. But also those other issues are very problematic, and they've been epidemic in Oklahoma for some time.
You touched on earlier in our conversation that small businesses made up, what, 97% of the overall
97%,
of the economic engine here in Oklahoma. And I know something that is near and dear to you is small business, because you've touched on that every time that we visited. And you have a small business day at the Capitol. Tell us about that event. But if I'm the ABC small business, how do I get plugged into your small business day at the Capitol?
Well, to answer that, last question first, you can call the office at 405-521-2161. Madison will probably answer the phone. Very small staff. You can talk to anybody that does answer the phone. 521-2161 is the phone number. The Small Business Day, the Lieutenant Governor, whomever the Lieutenant Governor is, has been conducting and hosting Small Business Day for decades. Now, this coming year, Steve, it's interesting you ask about it, with the Capitol renovation and what's occurring, Small Business Day is floating around looking for a place to land because the rotunda is going to be shut down for many large events. Okay. And the Small Business Day takes up the entire second floor rotunda. Sure. The point and the theme of Small Business Day is to invite small businesses all around the state, host a day for them, talking about legislation that's in the pipeline for that session, what was passed last session, have a couple of guest speakers, not an entire day, break for lunch, and then my last charge to those that are in attendance is now go visit with your legislators, but not only your legislators, go visit with all the other legislators you can find and have meetings with, because even if he or she doesn't represent you, they're not from your hometown or your legislative district, they still cast a vote that impacts you as a small business operator and owner. So that's the point of small business. That's why we do it. We try to make it pertinent. We try to give good information to those that attend. And it's not lost on me. It's very challenging for some small businesses to make it to the state capitol because it's a small business. They can't take time away. We try to make sure that they're represented and or their industry is represented. But this year, stay tuned, to be determined when it is, where it is, because of the renovations and what's occurring at the state capitol right now.
And that phone number one more time.
405-521-2161.
Since we're on the topic of small businesses, is there anything that you see that maybe businesses, Oklahomans, citizens, or whatever can be doing to help promote, or just really, in regard to economic development, I guess is my question, what can we do to just get this engine really cranked up and going?
Well, the greatest asset we have as a state, the people. That's our greatest asset, the people of Oklahoma. Young, old, everything in between, our greatest asset is our people. That's why we are known as the state that has the Oklahoma Standard. Obviously, another state couldn't have the Oklahoma Standard, but we personify hard work, grit, compassion, taking care of one another. Other states know us for that, and we're known, quite frankly, internationally as having that Oklahoma Standard, but that talks about our people. So the hard work, the grit, continuing that. Now it's incumbent upon those that work at the state capitol to cast a vision. And not just a 4-month vision during the legislative session, but a 15, 20-year vision of where we need to head in Oklahoma. So, therefore, our future generations, our children, our grandchildren, have an opportunity awaiting them once they finish quality education in Oklahoma.
It's been a year or so since our last visit here at the ETN studios, and I remember asking you what was the best thing about your role as Lieutenant Governor, and you said something along the lines of, just meeting the folks, Steve. So, is that still your answer?
Well, it is, and I think I said then, and I'll say it again now, meeting the folks, but also helping. I want to be very active, very engaged. I was in Hugo, I think 2 weeks ago. I met a gentleman that has an issue with state government, needs a little bit of help. And sometimes our agencies and departments become so large and so bureaucratic, phone calls may not be returned as quickly as they need to be returned. So whether it's a small, medium, or large issue, large policy or small personal issue, I like being engaged, meeting the citizens, offering my assistance, and making sure my office jumps in with both feet to help when and where we can.
As Lieutenant Governor, and this question is not necessarily health or it's not economic development, but the question is simply, what can we do? What can the Steve Kimes of the world do to make Oklahoma from good to great? Well,
Steve's doing it. John's doing it. Sally's doing it. Belva Lamb's doing it, my mom. The citizens are doing it. Now it's incumbent upon state government to really get out of the way, to assist where we can. And when I say assist, I mean very good, healthy public policy that allows moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, families to educate their children, to provide for their children, and provide a very competitive workforce, well educated, and to provide that environment that capitalism can thrive and prosper and commerce can flow, and we can be a very pro-growth state that businesses want to relocate and small businesses can spawn and grow and create more jobs. And we can be the state that other citizens want to be a part of, or look toward for an example.
Very good. Well, we don't have any more questions. We've run out of questions for the Lieutenant Governor. However, since he's a homegrown product and has a very special connection to Enid, connection, you get that? City Connection Show connection. Sorry, I just had to do that. Todd, I just want to give you this opportunity because I know families here, friends are here. Enid is near and dear to you. You're an ambassador for our community as you travel the state and also across the country. I wanted to give you this platform, if you will, just to have some closing comments about being from Enid, Oklahoma.
Well, it's just before, well, today's Halloween, so happy Halloween. I don't know when we'll watch this or the viewers will see it. Thanksgiving around the corner, Christmas around the corner. When I come home, and all my family's still here, I love Enid. And I'm so thankful that God brought my mom and dad to Enid, Oklahoma, so I could be born here, raised here, get the education that I received here at McKinley, Emmanuel Christian, Waller Junior High, and Enid High. But also, so many people were very engaged and helpful and mentors to me. Teachers, though, Dennis and Anna Sue Luckenbill at Emmanuel Baptist Church, another example. I just want to say thank you. So happy Thanksgiving, and thank you to all of you that have had an impact in my life, correcting me when I need a correction, encouraged me along the way, and I won't miss the opportunity to say happy Thanksgiving, but also Merry Christmas.
Very good. Well, Todd, Enid turned 123 years old on September 16th here, just weeks ago.
Oh,
so we have a new commemorative coin to celebrate 123 years. So it's a little different than the other coin that we presented you a year or so ago.
Right.
This is to celebrate our 123rd birthday. So
thank you.
My instructions are to give those to dignitaries. And I'm looking through my list of dignitaries, and I thought, okay, we'll throw in a lieutenant governor.
Well, you don't have one today, but thanks for the coin anyway.
So anyway, you're welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
And thank you for being here at the Enid Television Network.
My pleasure.
Appreciate what you do. And we sincerely, we appreciate the way you represent the Enid community, and even being from Perry, Oklahoma. We just appreciate what you're doing, staying connected with everybody here in Oklahoma.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks. And thank you for joining us on City Connections. And as I say, often, it's just a real treat and a real privilege that we can highlight Enid, we can highlight citizens, and we can highlight individuals that are from Enid. They've taken off, but they've come back. And we just appreciate them taking time to visit us here at the Enid Television Network studios. And thank you for joining us on City Connections. Until next time, I'm Steve Kime. Make it a great day.